I was 32 years old. Good job, good apartment, good car. By all outside measures, I had won the game of life. I had the title, the salary, the respect. People at work listened to me. My parents were proud. My friends thought I had figured it all out. But every morning felt like a transaction. Wake up before the alarm, check emails before brushing my teeth, fight traffic that never ended, fix problems that never stopped, please people who were never satisfied. Come home, collapse, repeat. I had stopped feeling anything real. No joy in the morning, no peace at night. Just a long, gray line of tasks that stretched from Monday to Sunday without a single break. Happiness, I told myself, was something I would earn later. After the promotion, after the bigger house, after the next milestone. After I saved enough money, after I proved myself to everyone. After. I was so busy chasing someday that I forgot to live today. I forgot to breathe. I forgot to look up from my phone. I forgot what my own face looked like when it wasn't stressed or angry or tired. Then I met George. George lived in the apartment next to mine, number 4B, the one with the crooked number taped to the door. The tape was yellow and old, peeling at the edges. The door itself was scratched and faded, but there was always a small welcome mat outside. Always a pair of old shoes neatly placed. Always a little clay pot with a dying but still green plant. He was 80 years old, retired mailman, widowed, lived alone. No grandchildren nearby, no family photos in the hallway, no visitors that I ever saw. By modern standards, his life looked small. No travel photos on his wall, no fancy furniture, no smart TV, no delivery apps. Just a small wooden chair by the window, a single plant that he watered every evening at exactly 6 p.m., and a stack of old library books with cracked spines. But in a few months of accidental conversations, in the hallway, on the stairs, by the mailbox, in the laundry room, he taught me more than 6 years of therapy and a shelf of self-help books ever could. He taught me without lecturing. He taught me by just being himself. Quiet, curious, grateful, slow. It all started because of a broken elevator. One evening, our building's elevator broke. The landlord said it would take 3 days to fix. 3 days of stairs. I was rushing up the stairs that evening, annoyed, sweating, late for a work call that I did not even want to be on. My phone was buzzing non-stop. My head was pounding. My back hurt from sitting all day. I had not eaten since breakfast. And there he was, George, climbing one step at a time, one hand on the railing, the other holding a small bag of groceries, a loaf of bread, a carton of milk, 2 apples, a small bag of peanuts for the squirrels. He was not rushing. He was not sweating. He was not checking his phone. He was just moving slowly, breathing calmly, almost enjoying each step like it was a gift. I said, "Need help?" He looked up. His eyes were clear and bright. His face was full of wrinkles, but also full of something I had not seen in a long time. Peace. Real peace. Not the fake kind that people post on Instagram. The kind that comes from decades of learning what matters and ignoring the rest. He smiled like he had just won a lottery and said, "No, son, but walk with me. I will tell you why I am in no hurry." That was the first of many stairway conversations. And that night, I missed my work call. And I did not care. Not even a little. One evening, about 2 weeks after we first met, I came home furious. A client had yelled at me for an hour on a video call. He called my work garbage. He said I had no idea what I was doing. He threatened to leave and take his money elsewhere. My boss had ignored my ideas in a team meeting. He had taken credit for something I had stayed up all night to finish. Traffic was a nightmare on the way home. 45 minutes to go 3 miles. It had been raining. My shoes were wet. I had not eaten all day. My head was pounding. I slammed my apartment door so hard that the frame shook and a small painting fell off the wall. George was outside his door, watering that single plant on his windowsill. The same plant, the same time. 6 p.m. He saw my face and said, "Rough day?" I exploded. I told him everything. Every stupid detail. Every unfair comment. Every little frustration that had been building up for months. I used words I am not proud of. I raised my voice. I paced back and forth. He just stood there, nodding. Did not interrupt, did not give advice, did not tell me to calm down. Did not say it will be okay or look on the bright side. He just listened. Really listened. His eyes stayed on mine the whole time. He did not look at his phone. He did not look at his watch. He just stood there with that small watering can in his hand and let me be angry. Then, when I was finally done, when I had no more words left, he smiled and said, "You know what I did today?" I said, "What?" He said, "I watched a pigeon find a French fry." I laughed out loud. A real laugh. The first one in weeks. It came from somewhere deep in my stomach. A pigeon and a French fry? That is your big highlight of the day? George smiled wider. His eyes crinkled at the corners. His whole face lit up. He said, "Took him 10 tries. 10! I counted." Other pigeons kept stealing it. People kept walking too close. A dog almost ran at him. The fry was cold and dirty and half smashed on the sidewalk. But he did not give up. He waited, he watched. He timed his moves. And when he finally got it, he did a little dance, puffed his chest, walked around like he owned the whole street. He looked at the other pigeons like, "See? This is mine. I earned this." That was my highlight. That was my whole day. I could not believe what I was hearing. I had just lost a big client worth thousands of dollars. My career felt like it was falling apart. I had yelled at the world. And this 80-year-old man was celebrating a pigeon with a piece of leftover food from God knows where. But then he explained something that changed everything for me. Something I still think about every single morning when I wake up. He said, "You are waiting for big happiness. Vacations, awards, love confessions, winning arguments, big salaries, weddings, retirements, promotions. I know because I used to do the same thing. I waited my whole youth for something big to happen. I waited for the perfect job. I waited for the perfect woman. I waited for the perfect house. And when those things came, I was too tired to enjoy them. I had spent so many years waiting that I forgot how to feel. Then I waited again, for the next thing, and the next. Then one day, when I was about 60 years old, I realized I had spent 50 years waiting. 50 years. 5 decades. And the big moments? They came maybe 5 or 6 times in all those years. But the small moments? They come every single hour. Every single day. Sun on my face for 5 minutes while I drink my morning tea. Tea that is exactly the right temperature. Not too hot, not too cold. A memory that does not hurt anymore. A stranger who smiles back at me in the grocery store. A bird that sings outside my window at 6 a.m. The first sip of water when I am really thirsty. The last page of a good book. A warm towel after a shower. The smell of rain on dry soil. Train yourself to see those, and no bad meeting can steal your whole day. No rude client, no traffic jam, no lost deal, no unfair boss. Because you have already collected 10 small happinesses before lunch, and no one can take those away from you. I stood there in silence. I realized I had not celebrated a small thing in years. Years. Every day was either a win or a failure. There was no in-between, no gray area, no room for pigeons and French fries. George lived in the in-between, and he was happier than anyone I knew. Anyone. A few weeks later, I found George sitting on the building steps at 10 at night. The sky was clear, the air was cold enough to see your breath. He was staring at nothing. Just the empty street, the flickering streetlight, a stray cat walking by, a lone car passing every few minutes. He looked smaller than usual. His shoulders were down, his hands were in his pockets. He was not humming. He was not smiling. I sat next to him, did not say anything for a while, just sat there in the cold. Then I said, "You okay, George?" He was quiet for a long time, maybe 2 full minutes, maybe 3. I almost thought he had not heard me. Then he said, "I was thinking about my son." I had never heard him mention a son, never saw a photo, never heard a phone call, never saw a birthday card or a gift or anything. I just assumed he never had children. I assumed he and Maria were enough for each other, but he did have a son, a boy. 30 years ago, he said, his son had asked him to go fishing. Just one day, just the two of them, a Saturday. The boy was 12 years old. He had saved his pocket money for 3 months to buy bait. He had woken up at 5 a.m. without being asked. He had packed a bag with sandwiches and juice. He was so excited. And George said he was too busy. Work project, deadline, important meeting, client flying in from out of town. He said, maybe next weekend. Next weekend never came. He never asked again, George said. His voice was quiet, empty, not crying. That was worse. Crying would have been normal. Crying would have been release. This was just flat. Like he had said the same words 1,000 times to himself in the dark. Like the wound had scarred over but never healed. He lives in another country now, Canada. He is 42 years old. He has 2 kids, a boy and a girl. I have seen them maybe 4 times in their whole lives. 4 times. We talk twice a year. His birthday, Father's Day. Sometimes not even then. Sometimes he forgets, or maybe he does not forget. Maybe he just does not want to talk to me. Maybe I don't blame him. He stopped, took a long, slow breath. The kind of breath you take when you are trying not to fall apart. I spent my whole life being necessary. Necessary at work, necessary for bills, necessary for deadlines, necessary for meetings, necessary for other people's emergencies. But none of those things came to my hospital bed when I almost died last winter. None of them sat next to me at 3 a.m. when I could not breathe. None of them held my hand when I was scared. The fishing trip would have. That boy would have. That boy loved me. And I said no. And he never asked again. I did not know what to say, so I just put my hand on his shoulder, and we sat there in the cold for a long time. 2 men, old and young, both learning the same hard lesson. I went home that night and called my dad. We do not talk much, maybe once a month. Quick calls. How are you? I'm fine. Good. Bye. That night, I called at 11 p.m. He picked up on the second ring, surprised, confused, a little worried. I could hear it in his voice. Beta, kya hua? I said, nothing, Dad. No reason. Just wanted to hear your voice. There was a long pause, a silence that felt like a mile. Then he said, Are you okay, son? His voice was softer now, older. I said, I will be. I just wanted to say I love you. Another pause, longer this time. Then his voice cracked a little, just a little, but I heard it. I love you too, Beta. I love you too. We talked about nothing for 20 minutes. The weather, his garden, a movie he watched on TV, a memory from when I was 5 years old and fell off my bicycle and he came running. I had completely forgotten that memory, but he remembered. He remembered everything. It was the best conversation we had in years, maybe ever. After we hung up, I sat in the dark of my apartment and thought about how many fishing trips I had already said no to without even realizing it. How many Saturdays I had chosen work over my own blood. How many calls I had ignored because I was too busy. How many times I had said later when I meant never. One day, I saw George writing in a small notebook. He was sitting on the bench outside the building. The sun was warm. His glasses were on his nose. His tongue was sticking out a little, the way people do when they are concentrating. The notebook was old. The cover was cracked. The pages were yellow. I asked, Are you journaling? He laughed, a big, warm laugh that came from his belly. No, this is my curiosity log. I said, Curiosity log? What is that? He said, Every day I write one new thing I learned. Does not have to be big. Does not have to change my life. Does not have to impress anyone. Just one thing I did not know yesterday. One thing that makes tomorrow worth waking up for. One thing that keeps my brain young. He showed me his week. Monday. Ants can lift 50 times their weight. I did not know that. I had walked past ants a million times and never wondered about them. Tuesday. The library gives free audiobooks. I have been walking past that library for 10 years and never went inside. Wednesday. My neighbor in 4D plays violin at 6 on Tuesdays. I have been hearing that music for months and never wondered where it came from. Thursday. The word grateful comes from the Latin word for free. I looked it up later. He was right. Friday. A squirrel can recognize a human face after 2 weeks. He tested it. Same spot, same time, same peanuts. The squirrel started waiting for him. Saturday. The post office still sells 5-cent stamps. Nobody buys them, but they exist. Sunday. I still have more to learn. That was his entry. Just that. I still have more to learn. I smiled. That is beautiful, George. He closed the notebook and looked at me. His eyes were serious now. Not sad, not angry. Serious. Like he was about to tell me something important. Most people stop learning, he said. They get a job, they get married, they buy a house, they have kids, and then they just stop. They watch the same shows, eat the same food, have the same arguments, repeat the same stories, drive the same roads, complain about the same things. Then they stop living. They just wait. They wait for weekends, wait for vacations, wait for retirement, wait for someone to save them, wait for something exciting to happen. I refuse to wait. I do not care if I learn how to fold a paper crane or why the sky is blue, or how many bones are in a cat's ear, or what my neighbor's name is, or when the library opens on Sundays. As long as tomorrow has one new thing. Just one single thing I did not know yesterday. I will get out of bed. I will put on my shoes. I will water my plant. I will make my tea. And I will be curious. That is my secret. That is the only secret. One evening, I asked him something I had been wanting to ask for weeks. Something I was almost afraid to ask. We were sitting on the same building steps, the same flickering streetlight, the same stray cat walking by, the same cold air. I said, "George, can I ask you something personal?" He said, "You just did, but go ahead." I said, "Do you still miss her? Your wife, Maria?" He went quiet. The kind of quiet that fills a whole street. The kind of quiet that makes you wish you had not asked. Then slowly, very slowly, he pulled out his wallet. It was old brown leather, cracked at the edges, held together with tape. Inside was a tiny, faded photo of a woman with dark hair and a big smile. Her eyes were bright. Her head was tilted. She looked like she was about to laugh at a joke only she understood. He held the photo for a long time. His thumb traced her face. Then he said, "Every single day, every single morning, every single night, every time I make tea, every time I see a yellow flower." She loved yellow flowers. "Every time I hear a violin," she played the violin. "Every time I cook rice," she taught me how. "Every time I look at that plant by my window," she gave me that plant 30 years ago. It was just a small cutting. Now look at it. I felt my throat close up. I said, "I'm sorry, George. I should not have asked." He turned to me. His eyes were wet but steady. "Do not be sorry. Do not ever be sorry for asking about love. Missing her means I had her. That is the deal. That is the contract. You do not get the love without the loss. You do not get the joy without the grief. They live in the same room. They sleep in the same bed. You cannot have one without the other." So now, he said, when I feel sad, and I do feel sad, sometimes very sad, sometimes so sad I cannot move, I say thank you instead of why me. I said, "Thank you? For what? For the pain?" He said, "Thank you that it mattered enough to hurt. Thank you that I got to love someone that much for that long. Thank you that I have a hole in my heart that is exactly her shape. Thank you that the pain is proof of the beauty. Because if she had never existed, if we had never met, if we had never laughed together and cried together and grown old together, I would feel nothing. And nothing is worse than pain. Nothing is worse than empty. Nothing is worse than never having loved at all." I did not understand it then. Not really. It sounded like a poem, beautiful but not practical. But a few weeks later, I lost a project I had worked on for 6 months. 6 months of late nights, 6 months of weekends,